I was bone-tired, just off a 14-hour shift on an oil rig in the Gulf of Mexico, when my phone pinged at 2 a.m. The message hit me like a sucker punch. I'm done with you, heading to Tucson with my 27-year-old sweetheart, and I'm taking every dime we've got. My name's Hank Carver, 50 years old, a guy who's spent the last 25 years working oil rigs from Texas to the Middle East. My hands were still slick with grease when I read the text from my wife of 15 years, Marla. I stared at the screen, and then another message popped up, a screenshot of our joint bank account, showing a big fat zero where $139,000 used to sit. She tossed in a winking emoji, like this was some cute little joke. I didn't smash my phone or lose it. I just sat on my narrow bunk in the tight quarters I shared with two other roughnecks, typed back, "Fine, have fun," and powered the phone off. Then I dragged myself to the shower. The next morning, the crew could tell something was wrong when I skipped my usual bacon and eggs and went straight to work. My right-hand man, Tucker, kept eyeing me during equipment checks but didn't pry. He knew the deal. 16 guys relied on us to keep this floating steel beast running smoothly. Personal stuff stayed locked away. At lunch, I cracked open my laptop and checked my email. Marla had already filed for divorce, claiming I'd neglected our marriage by working overseas too much. She'd hired some hotshot lawyer named Preston, who specialized in big money splits. They were gunning for spousal support, citing my excessive income. Oh, and she mentioned her new emotional support partner was shacked up in our house in Lubbock. I snapped the laptop shut and got back to work. Didn't breathe a word to anyone. That night, I sent a single email, not to Marla, but to my cousin Wade, an accountant in Dallas. Time to kick off Operation Blizzard, I wrote, our old code phrase from way back. No details needed. 2 minutes later, his reply came, I'm on it. Don't respond to anything till you're back in the States. I had 2 weeks left on this rotation, 2 weeks of 12-hour shifts in 110-degree heat while the life I thought I had back home unraveled. The crew would have had my back if I'd asked for emergency leave, but what was the point? Better to grind it out and cash the paycheck. When I turned in that night, the rig boss, Gideon, swung by my quarters. Everything solid, he asked, and he wasn't just talking about the drilling. All good, I told him. And it was more than Marla would ever realize. I met Marla 17 years ago at a buddy's tackle shop in Lubbock. She was 29, working the counter, cracking jokes about city slickers who thought fishing was rocket science. I was 31, a decade into the oil game, home between gigs, helping my friend restock shelves. We tied the knot 10 months later, quick, but it felt right back then. I'd already carved out a decent life, owned my house free and clear thanks to a smart bet on a small oil outfit that got bought out, and had a solid career on international rigs. She said she respected my drive, my steadiness. I loved her spark, the way she could chat up anybody. The schedule was always the tough part, 2 months on, 1 month off. But the money was unreal. In 6 months, I could pull in what most folks in our town made in 3 years. We agreed it was worth it. She'd keep things steady at home, I'd build our future. By year 9, though, things started to shift. Little stuff at first, grumbling about missed anniversaries, asking if I really needed that Qatar contract, pointing out how her friends' husbands were always around for barbecues. Hindsight's a killer, I should have seen the signs. When I hit 45, she stopped asking when I'd be back. No more pictures of her daily life, no long video calls. I chalked it up to the rhythm of a long-distance marriage, comfort settling in, routine taking over. Last Christmas, I came home to find she'd redone our whole house without a word. New couches, new walls, new everything. When I asked why, she just said, it was time for something fresh. I didn't push her to explain what fresh meant. 3 months back, I noticed money moving from our joint account to one I didn't know. Home repairs, she said. The roof's leaking. I swung by the house before this rotation. No workers, no ladders, just a sleek red Mustang I'd never seen parked in our driveway. 4 weeks ago, she stopped picking up my calls, just texting that she was swamped with a new hobby. I almost flew home right then, but I told myself to trust my wife of 15 years. 3 days ago, my neighbor Gus emailed me a picture of a U-Haul in front of our place. Figured you'd want to know, he wrote. I didn't respond, just waited. Sometimes, a guy's best move is to sit tight and let the truth come to light. The day after Marla's text, I wrapped my shift and shuffled back to my quarters. The satellite phone buzzed. It was Wade. Are you sitting? He asked. Just lay it out, I said. He didn't soften the blow. She'd been scheming for at least 13 months, funneling money to an account under her old last name. Started small, $2, $500 here, $3,000 there, then bigger chunks over the last 3 months. Total? $211,000, not just the $139,000 from our joint account. The room spun for a second. That was way more than what we'd had in savings. There's more, Wade said. 6 months ago, she'd swapped me out as the beneficiary on my life insurance policy. And she'd taken a $45,000 home equity loan on her house, forging my signature. I sat on the edge of my bunk, the low rumble of the rig's engines humming through the floor. 15 years, nearly 2 decades of shared dreams, and she'd been dismantling it, bit by bit, for over a year. What about the guy? I finally asked. Jasper Holt, 27, like she said. Used to be a gym trainer. No real job for the last 3 years. 3 prior relationships with women over 45, all fizzled out in under 18 months. I didn't need a diagram to see the pattern. One more thing, Wade said, his voice quieter. Credit card charges for 2 one-way tickets to Tucson, booked for next Tuesday. That was 4 days away. Marla didn't just walk out on me, she was trying to erase me entirely, slipping away with everything before I could even set foot back home. After hanging up with Wade, I sat in the dim glow of my quarters for what felt like forever. Didn't bother flipping on the light. Just sat there, memories reshuffling in my head like cards in a deck, forming a new, ugly hand. Those late-night calls she'd take out on the porch, her sudden obsession with yoga 3 years back, the gripes about cash even though our savings were solid. The gut punch wasn't the betrayal itself, it was the cold, calculated way she'd torn our life apart, all while smiling during our calls, cashing the checks I sent home, telling me she couldn't wait to see me. Something in me snapped, not into pain, but into something sharper, icier. I shuffled to my locker, grabbed my laptop, and logged into the secret email account only Wade and I knew about. I pulled up the holdings company we'd set up 8 years ago, after I saw Buddy lose it all in a nasty divorce. Frost Creek Ventures, named after my grandma's maiden name and the stream cutting through our old family land. The balance loaded, $1.5 million. For 7 years, I'd funneled 70% of my paychecks there, all above board, declared on taxes, but tucked away from our marital pot thanks to Wade's clever setup. I fired off one email to my lawyer in Dallas, green light Operation Ice Snap. Then I shut the laptop and headed to the mess hall for a coffee. For the first time in days, my stomach growled. I touched down in Dallas 36 hours after my rotation wrapped. Wade was waiting at the airport, handing me a burner phone and a thick folder of papers. "She's been blowing up your main number since yesterday," he said as we headed to his truck. The bank locked down the account she siphoned the money into, routine for big, sketchy transfers. "They need you in person to sign off." I nodded. "She doesn't know I'm stateside." "Nobody does except you and Leland." Leland was my lawyer. "But that's not the juiciest part," Wade added, pulling out his tablet and showing me a string of texts between Marla and someone labeled J. I scanned them, talk of their big plans, snarky jabs about me slaving away on the rig while they burned through my cash, even details about a house they'd put a deposit on in Tucson. One exchange, dated 2 days ago, stopped me cold. Marla, bank froze the money. Needs Hank to verify in person. What now? Jay, he's stuck on that rig for another 12 days. Tell him your mom's sick, get him to let you handle it. You're still his wife. Marla, he's not picking up. Jay, push harder. We need that cash for the house closing next week, or we're on to Plan B. Marla, Plan B freaks me out. Jay, it's just insurance money. His job's risky for a reason. Accidents happen. I handed the tablet back to Wade, my hands steady but chilled. This hold up in court? I asked. Pulled from her phone's cloud backup, he said. She used your iCloud account to set up her new phone last year, never changed the password. It's all synced to your storage. We drove straight to Leland's office. He'd already drawn up divorce papers, a criminal complaint for the forged home equity loan, and an emergency motion to lock down all assets. One hiccup, Leland said as we settled in. She filed a domestic violence claim against you yesterday. Says she bailed because of ongoing emotional abuse and financial control. Claims she's scared for her safety. That's nonsense, I said. I've been 6,000 miles away for 7 weeks straight. Leland shrugged. Doesn't matter. It's a play to win the judge's sympathy and justify grabbing the money. Her lawyer's pushing for an emergency hearing tomorrow to get a restraining order and sole use of the Lubbock house. So, she wanted to kick me out of my own place while her boyfriend crashed there. There's more, Leland added. That home equity loan? She burned through it already. Funneled it to an LLC registered to Jasper Holt 3 days after it hit. I took a slow breath. What's our move? Leland leaned forward. We hit back hard. File for fraud, forgery, alienation of affection, and criminal conspiracy based on those texts. We demand an immediate freeze on her accounts and that LLC. He slid a document across the desk. And we file this. I glanced at it, motioned to dismiss domestic violence claim with evidence of perjury. What evidence? I asked. Leland's lips twitched into a thin smile. Your company badge's GPS data proves you've been on that rig for 7 weeks solid. Your passport stamps back it up. Plus, I pulled your phone records for last year, no fights, no threats, nothing but normal calls. I signed where he pointed. One last thing, Leland said. When she gets served, you need to act shocked. She can't know you're back yet. Officially, you're still out at sea. I gave a sharp nod. I could play the part. As I stepped out of Leland's office, my phone lit up with a text from Marla on my regular number. Hank, please call. It's urgent. I need you. I didn't bite. Her trap was laid, but I was the one setting the snare. That night, I crashed at Wade's place in Dallas, sleeping deeper than I had in weeks. Come morning, I tapped into the security camera feed for our house in Lubbock, a system I'd set up 3 years ago and could access from anywhere. Marla either forgot it existed or figured I couldn't check it from the rig. The footage showed a young guy sprawled by our pool, sipping from my stash of bourbon, wearing what looked like my old college hoodie. He was yakking on the phone, chuckling, his feet propped on the patio table I'd built with my own hands. Then Marla appeared, pacing like a caged animal, her face tight with worry. No sound, but her frantic gestures screamed trouble. Things weren't going her way. Wade walked in with coffee. You gotta see this, he said, flipping open his laptop. He'd spent the night digging into Jasper Holt's past, and what he found flipped the script. This ain't his first rodeo, Wade said, spinning the screen toward me. 3 times before, same playbook, hooks up with a woman, usually married, always with money. They get cozy, she ditches her husband, grabs whatever cash she can, and they skip town. Within 18 months, he bolts with what's left. The screen showed court filings, news clips, social media trails, 3 women over 5 years, all left broke. One was still drowning in credit card debt Jasper had racked up in her name. It gets uglier, Wade said, his voice low. He was questioned in the death of his second girlfriend's ex-husband. Fishy car wreck, 6 weeks after the divorce papers were filed. Guy drove off a ravine on a road he knew like the back of his hand. No charges, but the implication hung heavy. My phone rang, Marla again. I let it roll to voicemail. Listen to this, Wade said, hitting play. Her voice cracked, dripping with fake tears. Hank, please. The bank's got our account locked. It's a mix-up, I was just shifting money to a safer fund, like we discussed. I can't touch anything. I'm scared. Call them and clear it up. We'd never discussed any such thing. 2 weeks ago, I'd have bought the act. She's panicking, Leland said when we met him for lunch. The Tucson house is closing in 5 days. They need that cash. What's next? I asked. Emergency hearing this afternoon. Judge Harlan's presiding, she's got no patience for bogus domestic violence claims. Your alibi's airtight, and we've filed to get the bank funds back in your name only. But there's more. He slid a folder across the table. Your neighbor Gus sent these to my office this morning. Inside were photos of my furniture, family heirlooms, pieces passed down for generations, being loaded into a moving truck. They're gutting the house, Leland said. Planning to vanish, money or no money. I handed the folder back, my jaw tight. Change of plan, I said. Both men raised their eyebrows. I'm going home. That's risky, Leland started. Not to confront them, I cut in. I'll watch from Gus's place. I need to see this myself. And when they're served, I want to be there, looking Marla in the eye when her house of cards falls. Leland nodded slowly. I'll make it happen. As we left the diner, a text hit my burner phone from Gus. They're packing your grandpa's desk now, the one you refinished. Thought you should know. Some thefts sting worse than cash. This wasn't just betrayal, it was personal in a way I hadn't felt before. The 5-hour drive to Lubbock gave me time to stew. Leland had the sheriff set to serve papers at 8 a.m. the next day. Wade arranged for me to watch from Gus's house across the street, where I'd spend the night. Everything was lined up. Gus met me with a firm handshake when I pulled up just past midnight. He was a retired drilling engineer, a rig veteran of 30 years, no need for long explanations. She doesn't know you're here? I asked, stepping inside. Not a clue, he said. They've been packing all day, taking the good stuff, leaving the junk. He nodded toward his front window, which had a clear view of my driveway. 2 moving trucks came and went. Big ones due tomorrow for the final haul. I asked if anyone else had stopped by. Some lady with a clipboard yesterday, Gus said. Looked like a realtor, taking photos. That caught me off guard. Selling the house? Gus shrugged. Looked like it. I called Leland, who said he'd dig into property records first. At 2 a.m., too wired to sleep, I sat at Gus's kitchen table, poring over the files Wade had put together. Bank statements tracked Marla's slow bleed of our accounts. Phone logs showed hours of calls to Jasper stretching back over a year. Credit card receipts revealed hotel charges in Lubbock on days she claimed to be visiting her cousin. The evidence painted a stark picture, not a spur-of-the-moment fling, but a methodical unraveling of everything we'd built, piece by piece. By dawn, Leland texted, Marla had listed our house with a real estate agency 2 days ago, priced 20% below market for a quick flip. She'd forged my signature on the listing contract. At 7:30 a.m., I stood at Gus's kitchen window, watching Marla and Jasper load the last of the small valuables into Jasper's red Mustang. My grandma's silver candlesticks, the pocket watch my dad gave me before he passed, stuff you could carry easy. At 7:45 a.m., a massive moving truck rolled up. Right on cue, 3 guys climbed out of the moving truck and headed toward the house. At 7:55 a.m., an unmarked sedan pulled up, boxing in the truck. 2 sheriff's deputies and a woman in a sharp blazer stepped out. Leland had sent a court officer with them. Showtime, I said to Gus. I crossed the street as the deputies reached my front door. Marla answered, her face twitching from annoyance to bewilderment when the officers introduced themselves. Mrs. Carver, we're here to serve you and the man on the property, one said. I hung back, just out of sight at the edge of the driveway, watching her go pale. She called for Jasper, who sauntered up, wrapping an arm around her waist like he owned the place. That's when I stepped forward. The look on Marla's face was one for the books, shock melting into panic, then a quick flash of calculation. Jasper just looked lost. Hank, she whispered, you're supposed to be on the rig. Guess I got an early flight, I said, nodding to the deputies to go ahead. They handed over a thick stack of papers, an emergency restraining order against them, a freeze on all accounts, a criminal complaint for forgery, a voided house listing, and divorce proceedings citing fraud and conspiracy. You can't pull this, Jasper barked, puffing up. She's terrified of you. Funny thing, I cut in, Judge Harlan tossed your domestic violence claim this morning. Hard to scare someone from 6,000 miles away. She was really curious about those texts you 2 sent, especially the bit about Plan B and my insurance. Jasper's face went blank. Marla stepped forward, tears already welling. Hank, this is all a big mix-up. I was just securing our stuff. Sure, I said, pointing at the moving truck. Saving our future by clearing out my house and listing it behind my back. She had nothing to say to that. You've got 30 minutes, the court officer said. Personal items only, clothes, toiletries. Everything else stays until the court sorts it. As they shuffled inside under the deputy's watch, I turned to leave. Where are you going? Marla called. I didn't look back. Home. 3 weeks later, I sat in a courtroom, Leland at my side. Marla and her lawyer were across the aisle. Jasper was long gone. 2 days after getting served, he'd split, taking Marla's leftover cash and jewelry with him. Wade's research had nailed it, same old pattern. The judge sifted through the evidence, bank records, forged papers, those damning texts, my location data. When she got to the messages about Plan B and insurance money, she paused and fixed Marla with a stare. "Mrs. Carver, do you understand the consequences of plotting insurance fraud, or worse?" Marla's lawyer leaned in, whispering fast. "It wasn't like that, Your Honor," Marla stammered. "Jasper was just kidding." "I'd never, save it for the criminal case," the judge snapped. "This court's here for marriage and assets." She kept reading, shaking her head now and then. When she finished, she set the papers down and took off her glasses. "In 25 years, I've rarely seen such blatant, calculated theft in a marriage. You, Mrs. Carver, systematically looted joint accounts, forged documents, and planned to flee with marital property." She turned to me, her face softening just a touch. "Mr. Carver, your separate holdings company might raise eyebrows, but you paid all household bills, filed honest taxes, and made no effort to dodge the IRS, just shielded your assets from risks like this." Her ruling came down fast. All funds Marla took were to be returned to me, the house stayed mine alone, her spousal support claims were shot down, and, best of all, she sent the forgery and conspiracy evidence to the DA for possible charges. As we left, Marla tried to catch my eye. I just kept walking. Some wins don't need a speech. 7 months later, I stood on the deck of my cabin outside Bozeman, Montana. The 40 acres of cedar and grassland had been tucked into Frost Creek Ventures from the start, a retirement nest egg Marla never knew about. The forgery charges against her got knocked down in a plea deal, no jail, but 5 years probation and restitution she'll probably never pay off. Last I heard, she was crashing with her cousin in Wichita, working at a strip mall. Jasper had moved on to a divorced surgeon in Nevada, his hustle still rolling. I'd hung up my boots from the oil game after 25 years, plenty long enough. With my investments, savings, and a trickle of royalties from a small gas lease in Oklahoma, I was set for life. Gus called now and then with news from Lubbock. I'd sold the house there, too many ghosts, none worth keeping. He'd helped pack up my stuff, shipping the family heirlooms to Bozeman and donating the rest. That afternoon, a letter came from Wade, final papers dissolving Frost Creek Ventures. Its job was done, assets moved, taxes squared, a door shut. As the sun dipped behind the mountains, I poured a glass of whiskey and settled into the deck chair I'd built that summer. For the first time in years, nobody needed me. No crew looking for orders, no wife faking love. Just the quiet hum of the forest and a breeze through the trees. My phone buzzed, a project manager from a Canadian drilling outfit, offering a consulting gig. Decent pay, barely any travel, just sharing the know-how I'd piled up over decades. "I'll mull it over," I told him. And I would, but not right then. That night was mine, for the calm I'd fought for the life I was finally living on my terms.